That was a very low plop to start the episode.
That was disappointing.
Yeah, it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah, well, one-handed. Okay, here we go. Game week 4 is in the books. As they say, we are going to talk about it. First game on Friday.
Are we just going to skip over the fact that Brian's not here?
Oh, I mean, hey guys, Brian's not here.
They can probably tell already.
I haven't heard his voice yet. Yes,
Hey,
Brian's
Brian,
not
love
here.
you.
Yep, it's his mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Denise.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Sweater.
So now we'll jump into Friday after getting rid of that glaring issue that I forgot about. Luton and West Ham. Who wants
First
to
game
talk?
at Kenilworth Road.
I also didn't realize you have to walk through people's houses when you.
You didn't
get to the
realize
stadium.
that?
No, not till watching the game.
Yeah, it's crazy. Such a tiny stadium, but I mean, we won't spend too much time on it. I think West Ham off to a really good start of the season. Win this 1-2-1 away at Luton, probably a game they should win based on their current form. I'd say Jaron Bowen's having a great start to the season, right? He's off to a hot start.
Another person who didn't get an England call-up.
Yeah.
Just for you listening, we were talking prior to recording about people that were getting England calls but not getting England call-ups, and that is why Clayton said another person that is not getting an England call-up.
Yeah, but Clayton, any thoughts on this game?
I thought that the whole VAR thing at the end with Luton with the penalty claim, I think they just kind of have to clear that up. And we'll talk about it more and more in the episode with all the terrible officiating, but it's just VAR came in and it was supposed to help, and it's just everything has. I feel like every week there's multiple talking points where there's an officiating issue.
It's every game.
It's
almost every game. I feel like last season was not nearly this bad. Like maybe one or two every other week. I mean, VAR always has its controversy, but never to the point of where it's like we start the week with like, oh, well, they got screwed. That should have been a foul. That was offsides. That would have been a goal.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm sure there's probably some growing pains every season, and I'm sure it'll get better between now and the end of the season, but
hopefully.
I don't know.
Fingers crossed. But I mean, for a team like Luton, like first game at home, if they get that penalty call, that could be a solid point there for them. So I'm tired of talking about all the issues with the officials.
We will give a shout to Luton scoring their first goal in the Premier League in however many years is it?
That's incorrect.
Sorry, at home.
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
At home in the Premier League. But yeah, West Ham take care of business at Luton. We will now dive into the Saturday fixture list, which, in order, was Sheffield-Everton. Was that the 7:30?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Sheffield-Everton. Here we go. 2-2 draw.
Your boy Cameron Archer putting up an absolute performance. I love seeing that, the ex-Aston Villa player.
He's your boy.
He is my boy. He had the first goal for Sheffield, and then he shot the shot that hit off Jordan Pickford to go in for the own goal.
That's so unfortunate for Pickford.
I don't really like him, so I don't really care.
Well, it doesn't care if you don't like him or not. It's just so unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it's you hate to see it, and I would have thought Everton would have had more than 0 points at this point, or 1 point at this point in the season.
At least they scored now. I mean, they weren't for the first 2 weeks. They didn't look like they even had any chance of doing that. So,
the new forward they just bought, Batu, he didn't really impress me, but this was his first game for them, so I'm sure there'll be something going on down the line. But he was kind of underwhelming in my opinion.
Yeah.
So 4 games in, how do we feel about Sheffield's chances of staying up?
I still think their midfield needs some work. They just look slow. I like that they try to crowd the midfield with that 3-5-2 they typically play, or the 3-5-1-1, because I think that they have gaps there, and I think that the gap between the back line and the forwards is going to be where some of the better teams are going to be able to punish them. But if we're comparing them to Everton, if I had to pick one of those two teams to stay up, I would pick Sheffield at this point.
I mean, this is both of their first point of the season. They're both right now above relegation by 1 point, as of Burnley Luton with 0 points through 4. Dan, if you had to pick out of these two, who do you think is more likely to go down, Sheffield or Everton?
I'm going to go Sheffield. I mean, just going off of, on paper, Everton, this team should not be struggling as much as they are, but they do struggle badly. Good news for them is Dwight McNeil did return from injury, so he got on, I think, the 75th minute or somewhere late in the game. So once he's back, and I know we mentioned this last week, Harrison's back, that's going to add some more firepower to that attack, and hopefully they can mesh well with Beto. I don't know. It's just a bunch of disappointing results, and if they keep doing this, keeping this up, Deitch might be the first manager, I think, sacked.
You think?
I think he could be if they keep struggling.
Is it Beto? Did I say his name wrong?
Yeah, you said Batu, which is like a Star Wars planet.
Whatever. I apologize.
That's why I laughed before, but
Nice. Hold on. One of you guys is hitting the metal piece of your microphone for any listening.
that's me.
Okay. So moving on the next day. Moving on to the next game. Not the next day. There was more than one game on Saturday. Garrett. All right. Shut up. Here we go. Man City, Fulham. We'll start with that one. Take care of business as we all assumed City would do in this game. Unlikely goal scorer for Fulham. U.S. international Tim Ream.
Listen, I mean, when he put that in, I was like, okay, now get 2 more.
But 5-1 Holland hat trick to headline the game. Scored the last one right at 95th, pretty much at the end of the game. I think Alvarez this season has been instrumental.
I like seeing him play as that number 10 role.
I do too.
Or the second striker, or however they're kind of lining him up. I really like him and Holland together. He looks good.
Yeah. I was going to say,
he'll have a good season.
It's a much different than when you saw him in the World Cup playing with Argentina. He's definitely a much different role playing in behind Holland, but I think without De Bruyne for what seems to be months, he's going to be really important. Especially, I think between him and Foden, and now Doku gets to start, the new transfer. I thought he looked very good. He looked dangerous at times. I think he still needs to settle into the system a little bit more. You could tell at times he was not as involved as you would like him to be. But he showed flashes of like one-on-one brilliance, which I think to play that wing role for City you need. Like when you had like the Mahrez to Grealish, and he kind of fits in that category. But yeah, I think they're doing a good job of picking up the creativity lost without De Bruyne, and Kovacic and Rodri just kind of holding down that mid and using them to pivot has been as successful as it always was going to be. Did you guys have any takes on this game?
One thing I'll say is I have Bernd Leno for fantasy, and I was really hoping like City would have a lot of shots and he'd rack up a lot of saves. He didn't register a single save. He let in 5 goals and he had negative 10 points for me, so that hurt.
That's kind of funny.
For the game, this is a tough game for Fulham. It was at the Etihad, right?
Yes.
So I mean, that's a tough, and I think they just played Arsenal the week before. Now they go into away at City. That's a tough stretch of games. 5-1 is a bad loss, so they're probably hoping to have a better result, but is what it is.
Going back, we mentioned the refereeing issues earlier, and we're going to mention another one again. I think Holland said it actually after the game that one goal should have been ruled offsides. He's clearly in the way. He's clearly screened the goalkeeper. I just don't understand how that's not reviewed and given as an offsides. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. I feel like the offsides is pretty cut and dry. If there's a guy who's offsides, they take the goal back or they stop the play. And I just don't understand how they keep missing these. And they missed one in the Villa game, and they missed one I think last week or 2 weeks ago. And I'm just like, why? Those are the easy ones. Like, okay, maybe there's a foul or something, you have an issue there, but the offside should be like almost robotic, like up in the offsides position, obstructing the goalie's view, take it back.
It's just like I get sometimes it's like, okay, he was in the way, but the ball didn't go in that direction. It's like, okay, fine, that's you play on from there. But this is clearly in the direction the ball was going. You could tell the keeper couldn't see. I mean, the Fulham coach was furious, as he should be. And even the players on the field knew that should have been called back. So, I mean, the refereeing has just been not great.
I will say something nice about Fulham is that they did sign Obi from Everton. And I think that's a good signing for them, especially the way he's basically been Everton's best player since he's joined them and since he's been playing that more central role. So I think that's a good signing for them.
Yeah, I think Fulham would be fine this year. I think they are bringing in the right pieces. They're trying to invest in some players. Like you said, Iwobi comes in, Jimenez,
and Paulinho's staying too.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go on deadline day. He almost went to Bayern, but fell through. He was there taking pictures with the team, but ended up falling through. And that's a huge keep for them because when I watched him against Arsenal, he was like one of the standout players for me. He just like goes into every tackle and comes out, winning most of them. Very solid player.
Nice. All right. Moving on to the next game that day, Chelsea Forest. A result that I don't think we saw coming.
I mean, this game was terrible. From a Chelsea point of view, this game was terrible. I don't understand how Poch comes into this team home to Forest, the team he should be beating, and he starts 2 attacking players. He starts Jackson, Sterling, and then he's got Gallagher, Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez, and then 5 defenders. And you've got all these young kids with so much talent on the bench. They're playing at home. You're playing a team that, on paper, you should win. Let them go out there and let them have some fun. Let them take some guys on, and not to just keep harping on Caicedo. But the goal was he had a bad touch that he was like halfway between a pass to Gallagher and halfway between the first touch. Loses the ball in a dangerous area, and Elanga's just slipped in beautifully and slots it home. And I mean, Forrest didn't look really anything too threatening that whole game.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just one opportunity and the game's on its head. And Everton really, I mean, I don't understand
Everton
how you have. Sorry, Chelsea. I don't understand how you have all those attacking weapons on the bench and you start 2 of them. And I think that honestly they need to be playing a 4-back so that way they can get some of those forwards and midfielders who are a little more attacking minded going on the field.
Yeah, I would say pretty uninspiring performance from Chelsea, and you're at home to Forest. You want to not even getting a point it's pretty bad. Enzo Fernandez, like you said, Caicedo, tough start to his tenure with the club. So I think he's really got to get moving, and once he gets moving, hopefully the team starts to click a little bit. But even like Nicholas Jackson, he missed a chance you cannot miss inside almost the 6-yard box at the end of the game. If he makes that, that's a point for them, and that's huge.
Oh yeah, I really like Jackson. He gets into all the places you want a center forward to be, and he gets so dangerous. But for some reason, he just finding the back of the net is just not something he's accomplished yet. No, and I mean he's getting there. I think it's going to happen
for a striker.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. But I just think I don't know if it's a confidence thing or actually I don't even think it's a confidence thing because he's getting to the right spots. I think it's just when it does click, I think we're going to be like, wow, what a great striker. But right now he's just struggling a little bit to find the back of the net.
So yeah.
Last thing I'll say is just Awinowie, the forward from Forest.
Every week
we keep talking about him. But
we'll learn his name by the end
his
of the year.
streak did end where he didn't score in a consecutive match again, but he did get the assist on the Elanga goal. So his presence is there, and he's still having a tremendous start to the season.
Yeah, he's looked very good for Nottingham, and we kind of said last week Nottingham might be a little bit of a scary team you don't want to play because they're kind of tricky. And I think this game kind of proved that. I mean, Chelsea had 21 shots this game, and 2 of them were on target. That's just not going to get it done.
Now, if you're a Big Six team who needs a forward, or like Arsenal, who, Jesus is really your only option up there, is Anowie on your radar? I mean, City probably wouldn't need him, but you're Arsenal, you're Tottenham, you're even Manchester United with Højlund. Do you say he's Premier League proven, he's ready to go, he can clearly work also in a single striker system?
I have another forward in mind in the Premier League who I would like.
Yeah,
we'll be talking about him later.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I would choose him over Awinowie.
Who is it?
We'll be talking about during the Brighton
talking about
game.
him in the Brighton game.
Oh God, okay.
He's not going to come cheap, but
120
at least.
No, probably more than that.
All right, moving on. I'm in the wrong game week. Here we go. Burnley Tottenham, another big one here.
What a freaking game!
What a fun game.
Gary, you lead us off on this one.
I think. Well, it's kind of funny. We talked about the last 2-3 weeks how much better Spurs looks without Richarlison on the field.
Yeah.
And what do they go and do? They go and sit him for this week.
That man is not starting.
And what do
another
they do?
game.
They net 5. So I mean, it just kind of says, sometimes the things we say on here actually come true. But I think they're playing just fun football to watch. It's just so it's clean, it's flowy, it's creative, it's attacking. I'm sure Spurs fans are elated right now watching this team play. We talked about how, Son probably needed a goal for just confidence sake. He hadn't been able to find the net in a while. Gets 3. I mean, he wasn't really, funny enough, with 3 goals, wasn't like overly involved in this game other than scoring.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's, if you're going to have a way to get involved, that's a pretty good way to do it. Madison had looked as comfortable as you could want to transfer to look 4 games into the season.
He fit right into that system. I think with Ange and the way he plays, like, he was the perfect signing. I think him and Son, I think this might be a dangerous start for them. Like, them clicking, Son hat trick, Madison being instrumental in that midfield, they could be dangerous moving forward.
Yeah, and it wasn't just it wasn't just the 2 of them. I mean, Solomon looked good.
Yeah.
Their whole team is clicking, and I think Burnley in this game wasn't like it wasn't like a 5-2 scoreline type of game. I felt like it was very open, but like Burnley also played pretty well and created many chances in this game. Like, they were all over the box. Like, they, again, 16 shots, only 4 on target for Burnley, but this was a fun game if you just like watching the sport. That it was just everything was going back and forth, and it was fun. Clayton.
I can't believe Madison didn't get called up to the England squad. You covered all the other points. I just think that's ridiculous.
That's insane. He might be the most informed.
Yeah, I still think the one concern is like defense for Spurs. I mean, yeah, like you said, it was a pretty open game. They did let up 2 to Burnley, which, they are at home.
I think with the way they're going to be playing, that their defense is going to, they might let up some goals, but I think because they're so their outside backs are so forward-minded going that they're going to score a lot too.
They're going to be a lot of
forward-minded going is not the way I wanted to phrase that, but attacking-minded, I guess, is better.
That would probably be a better choice.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be very similar to a Brentford, where they let up 2 goals a game, but they scored 4.
Yep.
All right, yeah, awesome game here. We will move on. Spurs, your fans, you can give yourselves a nice pat on the back. Well done. Speaking of Brentford, Bournemouth, the next game on Saturday we will discuss, and someone lead us off.
Yeah.
I'll start.
Don't all go at once, guys.
This was another game where I had an issue with the officiating, and I thought that the reffing was inconsistent to how the league has been run so far this season, but I thought it was very consistent in the game. There was a lot of, in my opinion, soft fouls that were let go that the ref was just like, play on, I'm not calling it. And I thought that was great. I thought that was okay. Because, you don't want to stop the game every 30 seconds. But at the same time, none of those fouls would have been called if it was a different officiating group.
Yeah.
So for me, because I just love talking about the officials. That was another thing I wanted to bring up. But Dominic Solanke looks the real deal now. I think he looks really good in that system. I don't think he's going to be moving to any Big 6 club, but I'm glad he's back in the Prem and getting some good goals in there. And Brentford look dangerous every time they go forward. Every time they go forward, they go with pace. They go on this quick break, and I love it. And their press is so efficient.
Yeah, Kevin Schade, they're outside one of their left winger.
Yeah, the German kid.
He looks really good. He's still young, very fast. Like you said, presses well. He drew the foul, which led to the first goal, which is kind of like Matthias Jensen puts in a free kick. I don't remember if stuff like it or not, but I think the goalie wasn't really expecting it. But either way, he looks like he's going to be a solid player for them moving forward and could be someone that could get a big move somewhere in the future. But on the other hand, props to Bournemouth because it's not easy to get a point out of Brentford away, and they did that. I think Bournemouth
got 3.
They almost got 3. Yeah, it only took a 93rd minute goal for Brentford to take a point. But yeah, I think Bournemouth will be fine this year. I think they'll finish with pretty safely above relegation.
Yeah, for a neutral, this was an interesting game to watch. It was a lot of fun, and the goal by Jensen was Toni Kroos-esque from the World Cup and his Real Madrid games, where he hits that kind of shot from there.
Yeah,
I was going to say Douglas Luiz-esque from the corner, but I figured Toni Kroos-esque is probably a better way to phrase that.
Jeez. Yeah, 2-2. And we were moving on to, I think our B game of the week, I think we gave it last week, was Brighton Newcastle. Brighton win 3-1. Hat trick. This is like the week of hat tricks. We discussed Holland had one, Son had one, and this is the third of the weekend. So, is it time for the Newcastle panic button to start the season?
I'll start. I'll say no, but be cautious. It might be time to make some changes within the team. They've had some tough games to start the season. Liverpool, Brighton. Who else they play?
Villa.
Well,
That was their win.
That's not a hard game.
City, Brighton, Liverpool. City, Brighton, Liverpool, and then
that's a tough start. So hopefully they get some better opposition to be able to change, maybe tweak their lineup in a few areas. I think you got to give Harvey Barnes a chance. Callum Wilson looked really good off the bench, but then again, are you really going to drop Isak to make that happen?
Right.
They could probably shake up the midfield a little bit. Like Anderson looked really good when he came on. And they did have a defensive injury too. Botman didn't play, so that hurts. He was solid for them last year. But yeah, I wouldn't panic just yet. Definitely a tough start to the season. My biggest concern if I'm a Newcastle fan is you're going to start playing Champions League games now, and you kind of dug yourself in this hole where you have 3 points through 4 games.
Yep.
So that would be my biggest concern. Is like, okay, I'm going to have double game weeks coming up, maybe or not triple, but like we're going to have also cup games coming up too. So it's like, hopefully we should have gotten some points before we got into the thick of things.
Yeah, and we have to take into account too. They played Liverpool, but they also played Liverpool with a man down for 70% of the game and didn't get a point out of that. So
yeah,
I think Newcastle should panic over their next 5 games if they don't start performing, because their next 5 Premier League games are Brentford, Sheffield, City, Burnley, and West Ham. So
that can't be right.
No, Brentford, Sheffield, City, Burnley, West Ham.
Did they not play City to start the season?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's an EFL Cup game.
Yeah, I was that's what was throwing me off.
Yeah, it's Brentford, Sheffield, Burnley, West Ham, and Palace.
So points they should get.
Yeah. If you don't get 3 points from Brentford, Sheffield, and Burnley, then I would start to be a little scared.
Because I think the problem is we were putting them in the conversation of top 3, top 4, top 2, and I mean the teams that do that, this is just not performances that they can have. I mean, you shouldn't have 3 points through 4 if you're getting put in that upper echelon of contenders. And I mean, yes, they're tough games, but like those teams, you're supposed to be one of those tough teams. Like you are supposed to be up there with them, and you're not showing it results-wise.
I mean, the top of the table is already starting to like take shape a little bit too. It's like you got City, Tottenham, Liverpool, West Ham, Arsenal, and Brighton in the top. Those are teams that are going to be fighting for those top 6 spots. West Ham, I mean, definitely good start of the season, but you got also Villa, and I'll give you Villa, and United, who will probably be also fighting. But Newcastle are all the way down in 14th at the moment. I know we're only 4 games in, but the table's starting to take shape.
It's still early, but I don't think they should be panicking just yet.
Shout out to Brighton though, because they lost. They dropped points to West Ham last week, but like I think some of us said on here, like they lost to West Ham. But West Ham's been playing well, and they didn't really play bad in that game. It was just again, the keeper for West Ham had a crazy game, and they just happened to not score. But I think Brighton has showed consistently that they are a quality team that's going to create quality chances against anyone. And they took their chances, and Nick Pope had a stinker of a game.
Yeah.
He did not look confident. He did not look he didn't look like himself from last year, that's for sure.
And he didn't look like that against Liverpool. He didn't look good against Liverpool either. He looked shaky.
Yeah.
Might be a confidence thing at the moment, but I mean, we got to talk about this, the striker I was alluding to earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, Ferguson.
Evan Ferguson, 18 years old, hat trick. That's the last. I mean, Welbeck probably won't be starting again, barring any injuries or anything, whatever.
So, which we said week 1, I think, that it was going to happen eventually.
So, 18 years old, Irish international. I think he's like one of the next big strikers, in club football. He just looks so poised with the ball. He looks so dangerous in front of goal. He scored from outside the 18-yard box. Beautiful finish right by Pope. We saw that before. We're like, oh, did Pope get a hand on it? Like, no, it was just perfectly tucked right in the corner. And he just gets in good positions. Like we were saying with Nicholas Jackson, he gets into good positions, but he's finishing them.
Yeah. And, I mean, when he hits that goal, he tucks in deep, and he gets no pressure on him. He doesn't have to put his head down. There's nobody from the back line stepping up with him. He's by himself, and you watch him look up at Pope, see where he's at, frame the goal, and just go, yeah, I'm gonna hit this. And I think that's where Newcastle kind of fell off this season, is that their back line doesn't look as solid as it used to.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, credit to Brighton. They looked clinical. Like, the passing that they had was just, I mean, it was Pep Guardiola-esque, and it was just so nicely done against a team that everyone has high in their table.
Yeah, I just think they play such good attacking football. Like you said, everything just flows so nicely. Everyone knows their role in the team. So the Estupinian and Matoma left-hand side is literally such a good combination. Estupinian's always overlapping, making runs, which opens up space for Matoma to either cut in and attack or, find him on the overlap. And I think another thing about Ferguson is, like we say, he gets in the right spots, but I think Billy Gilmore is the one who took a shot from
that laser, that
30 yards out, whatever it was, and Pope kind of fumbles it. But Ferguson kind of, if you're a striker, you need to be there for a rebound, and he was like right where he had to be and just touched it right in.
Oh yeah, and I mean Pope doesn't. I don't think he did a bad job with that Gilmore shot. That was an absolute missile.
Yeah, but you probably got to do better.
Yeah, you can't put it in your 6-yard box.
If you're trying to catch it, you got to catch it. If you don't feel comfortable catching it, you got to punch it away or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he just did not have a good game. Like you said, maybe it's a confidence thing. We'll see going forward when they play these lesser teams if he can get back to himself from last year. Moving on to Palace Wolves 3-2 Palace. Who wants to lead us off? All right.
I mean, me and Dan have been doing most of the talking. Do you want to take over, or do you want us to just keep going?
I mean, you guys can keep going. You're kind of running. I'm just kind of commenting when I can. I had Edward in fantasy, and he scored 2.
Yeah, I mean, we said
nice.
We said this at day one. We thought it was going to be his season, and him and Eze just look dangerous every single time they're on the ball. They just look so dangerous. They just want to run at defenders, and they want to make the defenders uncomfortable. And again, this is another game where within the first, 10 minutes, there was a penalty shout.
It's a Premier League game.
There was a Premier League game in the first 10 minutes. No, there was a penalty shout in the first 10 minutes, and I mean,
I think Eze goes down too easy.
I think he goes down easy there too. I think that's the correct call, but you got to bring it up. Mm-hmm. And if you look at some of the other games that have happened this season, that may get called other places.
Yeah. And first half was, pretty uneventful. 0-0 going into halftime. And then kind of the floodgates just open up. Game ends 3-2. Like we said, Edward gets a brace. Eze with a nice finish. I think Mateta had a nice little flick on. And Eze just had to finish it in. And good news for Wolves, they are scoring some goals.
We sure it wasn't possible, but it now is.
Yeah, still didn't get a point, which will be disappointing for them. They're another, Pedro Neto had 2 assists in this game. So I think he's been a bright spot for them this season because he had an injury last year, the last 2 years, whatever, been inconsistent, battling injuries.
Neto of old.
Yeah, and that's good to see because he was electric back in the day, like pre-injury. So hopefully, like we said, they can continue to score some goals and he can be instrumental in that offense.
Mm-hmm. The only other thing on Palace is that, losing Zaha, I did not think they would be doing this well after losing their talisman to Galatasaray this year. And they look almost a better team without him now, in my opinion.
Maybe it was a good move for them because maybe everything was going through him
too much.
And they still have Olise coming back from injury. And when he's back, him and Eze is going to be, they were already proved to be a great partnership last year. I think it's only going to continue to get better because they're growing and gaining experience in the Premier League. So I think it could be a good, they could be a good team moving forward.
We will say a little bit. They did have an easier-ish start to the season, schedule-wise. The one loss did come to Arsenal, but then they've played Brentford, Wolves, and Sheffield to start the season. So maybe going forward, we'll see how they play against maybe those top or middle tier teams.
I know they have Villa in a couple games.
Next week coming up, they have Villa because international break.
Oh, yeah.
And then, speaking of international break, real quick, if you're listening, we're going to be doing next week's games next week, if that makes sense.
Leading up to the games, yeah.
Correct. So today's going to be a recap and just a little something else on the side. Yeah. So anything else on Palace Wolves, fellas?
No.
Excited for Palace this season. I think Wolves are going down.
All right,
You do?
Clayton.
Wow. Okay. Sorry. We'll talk about it another time.
Whoa.
Go on. He said, "Well, he thinks Wolves are going down."
Just throw that in there.
Well, that's also the Villa fan in me. I kind of hope they go down, but
All right, a little biased, but good.
yeah.
Would you like to discuss? Yeah. Would you like?
Yeah,
to,
I'll talk about
I'll
it.
just lean back and let Matt
First
talk
off,
about
Trent Alexander-Arnold clearly listens to this podcast because fuck you for playing so well. Second of all, we looked terrible. We should have lost by 6, realistically. We played a high press. We played a high line, but the high press was non-existent. Trent and McAllister and Sobozai had so much time on the ball. We were just like a couple seconds too late to get into them. And I just remember watching like Pau Torres get the ball, pass it. We lose the ball in a dangerous area, and they come right back down our throats. And I don't think Pau Torres had a great game, but I was like, we got to change this. You can't go to Anfield and play a high line that clearly isn't working. And another officiating issue, the first goal in like the first 4 minutes, Solbazai shoots. Martinez is clearly blocked by Salah. Nobody even talks about it. And Ian Wright came out with that statement saying that, the referee's going to make another apology about this kind of game. And I'll be honest, in the moment, I didn't even realize it was offsides. I was more of, nobody's pressing the ball. But after looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be an issue.
I should make sure you know it was 3 minutes in, not 4.
3 minutes in. Sorry. Thanks.
Make sure we got the details correct.
Fact check.
Yeah, and we had another serious injury, serious-ish. Diego Carlos went down with a muscular injury, and I don't think they said how long he was out for, but that's another center back going down. And we just did not look good. We had a couple chances, I will say. That's the positive is we did have a couple chances, but in the back, we just did not look sound. On the flip side, Liverpool looked great. They were creating chances left and right. Trent kept doing that inverted fullback thing that he's been working on, and he was in the midfield, and he looked dangerous. We didn't really attack down his side because Diaby was on the other side. So I was like, okay, we've been saying this guy's been not a great right back for the last couple. Well, we have. I should have emailed Unai, but if the world's been saying that he's not been a great performing right back, why are we attacking down the left hand side where Robbo's staying a little deeper and keeping that side locked down? Nunes missed a couple sitters, and I think that he looked great. He was in so many dangerous positions. I can't tell you how many times I watched him get the ball and go, oh, thank God it's him, because if it's anyone else, they're going to score. And
I think we kind of jinxed people on this podcast because we talked about Nunes and how important he was last week and how he came in, he scored, he was so passionate. And then we kind of gave that criticism of oh, yeah, he got past that, can't score in clutch, cannot finish when he gets the chances. And then, granted, they win 3-0. But in a closer game, those chances that you're talking about are going to be what always get brought up because that's his biggest, criticism, and he's not really fighting through it at this point. It's still happening. And if in a game, this is against Villa, whatever, yeah, you're up a couple. But in a closer game against a team like City or Arsenal where you're not getting as many chances, you need to convert those chances. He's still not doing that. Mm-hmm. And he does start this game after his performance last week. But, he's got to eventually get rid of that scoring bug or he's going to get sold.
Yeah. Matty Cash continuing the scoring streak.
Yeah, I know. I had him in fantasy. It was a nightmare. I would have won if he didn't do that.
What do you have, negative? He had an own goal and let up 3 goals?
Yeah, he did not do
tough.
well for me.
That's a tough start.
And just the only other thing is that I think that we got 6 points in 2 games, 2 wins out of 4 games, and our 2 losses were to Newcastle and Liverpool. So I'm not heartbroken by the start. I think it's an okay start, but if we want to excel compared to how we did last year, I don't think that we need to keep these games closer. If we would have lost to Liverpool or Newcastle 1-0, and it would have been a close game, and we would have had some shape and some more organization, I would have said, you know what, this is a great start.
Yeah,
but we're getting absolutely demolished.
Yeah.
So I'm not nervous yet for the rest of the season, but it's definitely a little bit of a red flag.
I was just gonna say is like you're playing against the big teams. That's when you're struggling. Like those are the games you want to be competitive in. Show like we want to compete for Europe again, and these kind of positions. So might be a little bit of a voice of concern, and also like Watkins. Does he have a league goal yet?
No, he's got the European goals, and that's it.
So that's another concern. Your star striker, who we thought was going to have a really good season, still can. We're four games in.
4 games in.
No, I know. Trust me. But I'm just saying, you want him to be off the mark by this point.
No,
yeah, especially when you picked him in fantasy. You would really, really love for him to be off the mark at this point.
Yeah.
Any other words you'd like to say on that game?
I mean, our next 3 games are Palace, Chelsea, and Brighton. And
honestly, you have a hard run to start the season.
Yeah, it's been a little uncomfortable. I think ideally, if we get 6 points out of those 3 games, we're sitting fine. I wouldn't be that worried if we get 6 points out of that, because it's one of those ways we're beating a good team.
All right, moving on to the game of the week and the last game of the weekend. Arsenal United. Brian not being here, so we shall let Dan kick us off.
Woo! I think he's not here
on purpose.
Yeah,
on purpose. Yeah. He faked his mom's birthday to not be
faked his mom's birthday,
who we've known our entire life. So, yeah, I mean, I would just say very excited for this game. We actually went to this game we're from New Jersey, so they played in MetLife Stadium, preseason game, Arsenal versus United. United got the better of us there. I was disappointed. But I'm like, when it really matters is the league, and we won when it mattered. So I thought we kind of controlled the game to get to right after the opening whistle, we kind of controlled the game. I thought Declan Rice looked really good, but I could just tell the way we were playing. I was texting Garrett at the time. I'm like, this game has counterattacking goal written all over it, and what happened in the 27th
2 minutes later from the text,
literally
probably.
2 minutes after Marcus Rashford scores on a counterattack, and I'm like, yep, I called that one. But Onana celebrating like crazy after their goal, and then Arsenal come back within the next minute and just tie it up. So I thought it was cool to see him get shut up, because he kind of annoys me a little bit. But after that, close out the half 1-1. We didn't talk about Havertz yet, but we'll probably talk about Havertz.
Oh my! Okay,
Terrible.
That was what, like 13 minutes in, 10 minutes
he
in,
missed
whatever it was?
the ball.
Yeah, it's a confidence thing right now, and I think it's time to probably go with someone else starting.
He missed the ball.
Yeah, it's bad. Right
on the 6.
Yeah, you got to get a shot on goal on that,
or just contact with the ball would have been great.
It's bad.
I think I texted you. I'm like, wow, that was hard to watch. Professional player, you need to at least make contact and give a chance.
Yeah, it's rough. And then he also gave the ball away on the Rashford goal too, on the play, on the build up to the Rashford goal. So I don't know. I think it's time you got to shake things up, and he needs to prove to have his spot in the team. I mean, it's been 2 or 3 games in a row that Vieira has come on and made an impact and has looked really good. And he's someone, like I said last week, someone I've been very critical of in the past, and I thought I was never really convinced, because I thought he lacked physicality, and I thought he gave the ball away too easily. But he's looked phenomenal in his 2 performances off the bench. So I'm thinking maybe give him a chance. Him and Odegaard in the midfield, Rice, in center defensive mid role. And I think that could be a really dangerous, midfield pairing kind of going forward. And if Havertz starts to pick it up, okay, give him another chance. But I just feel like it's been too many performances in a row where it's been very lackluster, or wants the fans wanting more. But yeah, any thoughts on Havertz, guys, before we talk about the rest of the game?
I just think he just walks around. He's just not involved enough. And to play that position, you should want the ball at your feet. You should be creating chances. You have Odegaard playing next to you, so you think you'd be able to get involved, but he just seems he doesn't click well with, I guess, what's happening on the field. He just seems out of place. I almost would rather see, if Vieira has played well, to put him in. I feel like even Smith Rowe deserves a shout over Havertz at this point.
Yeah.
He's put in better performances for Arsenal in the past than anything we've seen from Havertz in the first 4 games. He came over from Chelsea. People thought maybe a fresh start, a fresh team would kind of, make him look better, or at least give him more something else to his game. But right now, it's just kind of showing the same standard he showed at Chelsea, which wasn't too much. Thoughts?
I think he's terrible. I think he's playing out of the position. I mean, yeah, I think he's terrible. I think he's playing the spot where he shouldn't be. I think he should be playing either as a 10 or a 9, and they're playing him as an 8 or a 6. And I think that
Not a 6, but more of like
More
box to
8-ish.
box.
more of an
or-
8. So I think that he's just not playing in the right position, and he just looks like he has no confidence. Kind of just echoing what Garrett said, he looks like he has like no desire to be out there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what like I mean, confidence definitely affects you as a player. Like if things are going well, you're in the news of, obviously there's a lot of pressure for him and switching to Arsenal. He really hasn't lived up to expectations, and he's been seeing it on social media and everything. I'm sure he sees everything. But this is another game where officiating comes into it, where there's a couple calls that could have gone either way. Couple penalty shouts that Arsenal had one that who was it? Havertz actually.
Shockingly enough, it was Havertz when he had the ball.
Actually made a good run in.
I always said he makes those great runs in the 18.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of contact, but I don't think it's enough to kind of call. The defenders, you could tell, kind of tried to back away, and he does go down a little easy. It was originally called a PK on the field. They go to VAR, and then, I feel like whenever they go to VAR, it's like, okay, it's most likely going to be overturned because the VAR's having the main ref go take a look. So, obviously, got overturned after that, and then there's one later once Højlund comes on. To me, that's not a foul, but I don't know if that's a biased take.
I thought it was kind of soft.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even called. I guess they reviewed it in VAR, but obviously nothing got called back. And then there was another one where I forget who it was, but I think it was, the picture's right there.
That's what I was trying to. I was waiting to
Lindelof.
pull that up because I was sitting here with Brian, who is a United fan, and we're like, that could easily be a red card. If that goes to VAR, that could easily have been a red card. He literally kicks him in the head.
I don't get why it's not even looked.
It wasn't even reviewed. That's what we sat here, and it was in our group chat, our fantasy soccer group chat. And Brian's like, that could easily be a red.
Yeah, this is on Nketiah, by the way.
So, Lindelof on Nketiah. It was just
like
first of all, we first saw it, and it wasn't even like it was just a foul in the middle of the field. It was on the break of play. Like he was getting put in behind, and then that challenge was made. So there was a couple things there that could have at least given it enough to be reviewed.
I think someone said earlier that the officiating has been really bad. I don't remember who said it, but the officiating has been terrible.
Yeah. But last couple thoughts. I thought we played some really good football in the second half, and especially when Havertz came off. Like we created some really good chances. I feel like the Martinelli Wan-Bissaka matchup was a really fun matchup to watch because Martinelli loves taking players on, and Wan-Bissaka is one of the best, I would say, like man-to-man defenders in the Premier League. He's not good going forward, but he can go in and make a tackle, which he did numerous times on Martinelli. But I thought that was fun. But it wasn't until we needed added time to break the deadlock, and 96th minute, Declan Rice, gets his first goal for the Arsenal off a corner kick, and the place just absolutely erupted. Did you guys see that?
It looked insane.
Yeah.
I just back because we were just talking about it, I just got an update while they're live here recording. The Premier League is going to release VAR audio of incidents for the first time this season after 3 high-profile errors.
Oh, I can't wait
Wow.
for that. I wonder what the 3 errors are they're talking about.
Yeah, so we'll get to hear now what was discussed and why they did or did not call things that we've talked about on here. So that'll be interesting, I think.
I wonder how much the refs swear when they're when they're talking to each other. They're like, "Fuck, is that a foul? I don't know. Fuck, all right, just don't call it. Don't call it.
Yeah.
Ah, shit, we fucked up again.
Fuck, the fans are booing."
Yeah, other than that, I mean, there was a Garnacho goal that gets called offsides by a lean. It was
Even
close.
Ten Hag said though that the VAR fucked that up. He said the angle was incorrect that they used to look at it.
He's the coach of the team that got scored on. I mean,
I don't know enough about VAR angles, but I feel like they probably use the same ones every game, right?
Yeah. Speaking of Ten Hag, him kind of blaming the players kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
At any time when you're a coach and you're just blaming your players, that is never the right answer, especially to go public. And then Sancho came out because one of the comments was pretty much directed at him.
Yep.
Right to him.
Training hard enough or something.
Yeah. So he came out and then basically said, like, don't believe what you like. It's basically not true. He's like, I've trained pretty well. And he's just kind of like, so now you have a locker room riff on a team that's not really performing well, a coach that's blaming the players for not trying hard enough. At some point, either is Ten Hag the right man for United?
I don't think he's the wrong man, but I don't know.
What an answer.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't
spin that, but go ahead, keep going.
I don't understand how every year there's some sort of issue with United, whether it's the players or the coach or upper management. It's like, how does this keep happening every single year? And I think based on last season, I would have said, yeah, he looks like the right guy. He looks like he's got a system going to play. Based on this season, I'm like, what's going on? It looks terrible. It looks like they threw out everything they worked on, and that there's just aimlessness going on in the midfield. Their signings have not impressed. Onana, for me, is a downgrade from De Gea. Some of the goals he's let in, I'm like, De Gea would have saved that. De Gea would have saved that. Mount has been terrible. I mean, I think the only reason they won was because he didn't play the last game.
Yeah.
And Højlund just got back from injury. I don't think he did anything spectacular against Arsenal. He had like one or two nice runs, and that little backheel flick, I forget to who, that was then the pass into Garnacho. But I don't understand what year after year, what is wrong with United, and what is it? The coach? Is it the players? Is it management? And we'll never know, but something's got to give at some point.
Yeah, I'd be concerned if I'm a United fan. Like, everything we had just mentioned, this locker room stuff definitely doesn't help either. Not that Sancho was really making an impact, but, that could then be another player that Ten Hag's talking about and can cause more issues. I just feel like results haven't been great. They've gotten a few wins, but, like, they were gifted the Wolves win of the first week.
Yep.
And I would just be concerned because it just, like, hasn't looked good.
In the first 4 games, they've beaten Wolves 1-0, lost to Spurs 2-0, beat Forest 3-2, and lost to Arsenal 3-1. And in all 4 of those games, they looked like the worst team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best way you could say it, honestly.
Yeah. And when you're one of the, if not the biggest club in the Premier League, arguably the world, Wolves and Forest at home, you almost lost that game.
Yeah. They're down 2-0 in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, and you won it on a penalty.
Oh, sorry, that was the Nottingham Forest game.
Yeah, you won it. They were down 2-0 in the first 5.
Yeah.
And you won it on a penalty, and I remember watching that game being like, it's kind of soft penalty.
That was almost the same that Havertz didn't get called in this game. Because that's the first thing I thought of, because I remember,
that's the consistency thing.
That's exactly, like, it was just the same amount of contact, and one got called and one didn't.
Yeah, and their next 3 games are Brighton, Burnley, Palace. If they don't win all 3 of those games, I mean, you're Manchester United. You need to win all 3 of those games if you want to be a top 16.
But how Brighton's look,
I think United's the underdog in that game.
They probably
by
are,
a decent amount. And like we were saying with Villa, it's like if you want to be competing, you got to get results against top 6 clubs. And like we had said, they lost pretty convincingly to Spurs, and this is a tough result against Arsenal too. So
yeah. So all right, let's stop talking bad about them. What's next?
By the way, Brighton is the favorite in that game, according to Vegas.
According to CBS Soccer.
Well, Vegas. They're setting the betting lines.
Oh.
Brighton is a plus 135 to win, and United is a plus 175 to win. So they are actually...
And United are home. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Is...
One last thing is Martinez got hurt in the game, too. So they were playing with a back line.
Oh, yeah, their back line at one point was
Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire as your 2 center backs. That's Leicester
tough.
City's center backs.
You saw that picture of the 2 of them at Leicester City?
That's actually hilarious. If you ever said, like, United center backs in 2023, we're going to be Maguire and Johnny Evans in a game, it's like, wow.
So that's rough.
It's a tough time. All right, we will dive in. That was the wrap-up of the week of the games. Another exciting week, as always. Also, fun fact, the only 2 teams that didn't score this week were Chelsea and Villa. Just want to throw that out there.
We played Everton. Not Everton. We played Liverpool. Although, it was a tough game.
Just want to throw that out there. Does someone want to run fantasy performers this week? Obviously, we touched on them a little bit going over the games, but fantasy performers are top 5.
Yeah, I got it. So week 4, top performer, like we said, we had 3 hat tricks. So the 3 hat trick heroes were top 3. Haaland with 43.2 points, 3 goals and an assist. And then Evan Ferguson, 3 goals. He had 2 aerial wins. So he had 37 points, and then Son had his hat trick. In fourth place was Pedro Neto. Like we mentioned, he's off to a hot start, 2 assists, 4 shots on target in this game. He's looked really good on the wing. And then Solomon from Tottenham had 2 assists in this game, so he had 28 points. So that wraps up our top 5. Let's give a little update on how our league's shaken out so far.
Weird how he said that one, huh?
So,
I want to redraft.
If you remember, Clayton took Harry Kane in this draft.
Yeah, but I took him like 5th overall.
Yeah, but you could have gotten someone better in 5th
No, you
overall.
took third round. I think you took him.
No, definitely took him later than that.
I think it was third.
I think it was third too.
I've lost 2 games this season.
By combined, how many points?
I've lost technically 1 and 4, but I've lost 2 games.
You're 1 and 3.
I'm 1 and 3, sorry, but I've lost 2 games by under a point, which I think is fucking bullshit. Because both times that happens, Saka's my last player playing, and Arsenal are up and just holding on to a lead. It was the game where Tomiyasu got the red card, and he was playing on left back.
Oh, he couldn't.
Yeah, I'm like, Saka, 1 key pass, do something. Nope, sure as shit, he's playing left back and gets subbed out. And then against Manchester United, he got the assist for Rice, and I was like, awesome. All you need to do is one more thing, and he didn't. And I was like, great, this is awesome. So if he wasn't my best player, I would be dropping him because I'm getting furious that he is
I'll take him.
so close and so far.
Yeah, if you're giving him out,
I'll
take
him
too.
So Clayton is currently in 9th place in our table right now, sitting at 1
12,
and 3.
right?
Out
What?
of 12. Yeah.
Out of 12?
Out of
Okay.
12, yeah. Garrett is next at 7th with a 2-2 record. Any thoughts on your season so far?
Yeah, I was kind of telling these guys before. My team neither really plays well or absolutely sucks ass.
It's kind of like Villa.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really just going in on me over here.
I think I've won both weeks that I've won by like 40 plus. I think I lost both weeks by like 40 plus. So
Yikes.
not great. I mean,
Yeah.
not consistent, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
Son, finally my first pick got me a lot of points. So I was happy.
That was
Dan,
good,
how are
yeah.
you doing?
Well, we got to go next. So we'll go Brian, who's in 3rd place. He is sitting at 3 and 1, 9 points on the table. I don't really know about his team, so I can't really talk too much about it. He has Holland, so that helped him a lot this
Definitely
week.
helps.
I beat him last week. I know that.
Did you?
Yeah, Holland
Nice.
didn't do jack.
Bragging rights, nice. And then your boy's sitting top of the league, 4-0.
Boo.
Boo.
Boo this man.
But yeah, so far 4 game weeks in, looking like it's going to be a interesting season.
All
Moving
right,
on.
that is the fantasy rundown. And one last thing before we sign off for this week. Personal favorite of ours, Champions League time. We'll run over the Premier League teams that are in the Champions League. Clayton, shut up. We'll talk about the Premier League teams got seeded and pulled into their groups. That was done over this past week, I believe. Dan, would you like to tell the people?
Sure, we'll quickly run through them all, but we'll talk about like the main league. So Group A is Bayern, United, Copenhagen, and Galatasaray. So we'll talk about this one. Really tough draw for United, I think.
United get out of that group.
Who do you think gets out? Galatasaray?
Galatasaray gets out.
That would be just the icing on the cake.
Yeah,
To be
that'd
honest.
be tough.
Not only do I think that happened, I want that to happen so bad.
Yeah.
Brian actually called me as this was going on because he knew I was watching, and Man United were about to get selected what team they were in, and he's like, anyone but Bayern. Like, I'll take anyone but Bayern. And I'm like, and you just got dealt Bayern.
Heels.
So I still think they probably are favorites to get second place in the group, but Galatasaray, don't underestimate them.
I mean, they've got Zaha, Mertens, Lucas Torreira,
Icardi, right?
Angelino, Icardi. I mean, but Galatasaray have a good team.
Yeah.
All right. What's
But-
Group B, Dan?
Group B is Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV, and Lens.
They should get out pretty easily, I think.
I
there.
think they should. Hopefully they win the group. But yeah, PSV could be good. Sevilla, obviously a decent team, so we'll see. Group C, Napoli, Real Madrid, Braga, and Union Berlin. Group D, Benfica, Inter Milan, Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. Group
Kind of
E,
an underwhelming group.
yeah, it's for real.
Yeah, bummer.
Feyenoord, apologize if I pronounce any of these or butcher these names, but Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic. That could be an interesting group.
Yeah.
I could see Atletico Madrid stumbling there just because every time I watch them play, I have zero confidence in them.
Yeah.
This is probably the toughest group by a mile.
Yeah, this next one, definitely the group of death for sure. PSG, Dortmund, AC Milan, and Newcastle.
That is ridiculous.
What a group! Oh
I
my
love that
God.
group. That group is so much
I
fun.
almost feel bad for like Newcastle fans. It's like, hey, we're back in the Champions League. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, son of a bitch.
All right, we'll talk about this a little bit. Who do you think gets out of this group?
Who do I think or who do I want to get out of this
Who do you
group?
think?
I think Paris and Newcastle get out.
Newcastle.
I think so.
Wow.
I think PSG and Dortmund.
I'm gonna go PSG Milan.
Well, one of us
Look
has
at
to.
this,
Well, actually, we
yeah.
all could be wrong if Paris doesn't get
Yeah.
out. But
Next is Group G. City, Leipzig. Not even gonna try. Cervena, Svedza,
and he tried anyway.
and then Young Boys. So
How does
should have-
City
they should have
every
no
year
problem.
We
get
put
the
Leipzig every
best-
year.
You get Leipzig every year, and you get the easiest groups every single year.
Yeah.
What happens when you win?
But it's random.
It's
it shouldn't happen
randomized.
how you
I
guys
know.
win.
And then
The
last
lottery
group-
balls are just, sometimes they're great.
Sure, it's
Yeah.
that oil money. You grease the balls with it.
Listen, if Newcastle got that oil money too, and they
They're not.
get
They're
anything,
clearly not using it
they're
yet.
not using
Yeah.
it right at least.
Group H, the last group is Barcelona, Porto, Shakhtar, and Antwerp.
So
Barca should get out of that pretty easy.
yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
Anything else before we cut the episode here, boys?
Villa are in the Europa Conference League. I don't know any of the teams that are in their group, and they should and better get out because I'll be furious if they don't.
The last thing I want to talk about, unless you had something.
No, I was gonna say I forgot to mention that Ansu Fati transferred
Oh,
to
to
Brighton.
Brighton, yeah.
this
Oh,
past
yeah,
week.
yeah.
I think that's like a random FIFA generated transfer. I was like,
It's-
where did
it was
that come
very
from?
weird. Like I just I can't think in my head like Brighton and like Barcelona doing deals is just kind of funny to me. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
it's so random.
What were you gonna say?
I'm not going to go through every group in Europa League, but there's one I want to talk about. Brighton got drawn Ajax, Marseille, and Athens. So
Tough group.
That is a tough.
they are in probably the group of death in the Europa League. So I still think they should probably get out. I'm thinking it's probably them and Brighton, but Marseille is probably a decent team.
Mhm.
To,
Yeah.
has a chance to get
what's
out.
Liverpool's group?
Liverpool is
They should
last
get out.
Union and Toulouse.
The Union team, Alexis McAllister's brother plays on.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh,
I
that's
saw
funny.
that. They're gonna play each other in the group if they
Yeah.
both play, which they probably should. But
And there's one more. We'll just say the last Premier League team too. West Ham is in Group A with Olympiacos, Freiburg, and TSC Bacca Topalo.
all right.
Well, successful episode. Kept it
Yeah.
nice and short for everybody.
Hey, we're under an hour. All right, folks. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week with the Premier League preview of next week's games. We hope you enjoyed listening. Anything last second, fellas? Go.
Nope, not for me.
International break sucks.
All right, that's true.
Yeah.
International break does suck. Follow us at League Pines. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. See you next week.